Dear Rentals Club members, thank you for joining us for this new session. I'm here with Sibylle and Rex Brown. They are in Australia and they have an amazing property on a Great Ocean Road, which should ring a bell to our Australian watchers. So they are both very experimental when it comes to holiday rentals. So much so that Rex has a very famous newsletter called the Holiday Rental Mastery, which is actually a program. We'll be talking about this. Also, we'll be talking about how they have adapted their business to still be able to be ready for the recovery. So what are they doing right now to get bookings? What are they made different, which is very interesting as well. You learn that. So if you're a property manager, especially also a holiday rental owner, you see things that you can use for yourself, for your own business, shared by you today by Sibylle and Rex. So first, welcome to this session and thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Well, thank you very much for inviting us, Thibaut. We feel very honoured to be on your call. And we're very much looking forward to sharing with your readers around the world. Start by apologising for my voice. I've got a bad larynx, and my wife here, Sibylle, will be helping speak a bit more, so I don't speak as much. And she's the brains behind the establishment.
It's great to have two experts in one session. I'm very happy to have both of you. Thank you so much.
Lovely to be.
Yeah, and to get started, so obviously I said that you were in Australia. So can you tell us maybe a bit more about where you are, maybe a bit about your property if you want. Also, I'm curious about the situation right now in Australia.
Sure. So our current property is called Seazen, Seazen. As you said, we're on the Great Ocean Road, about 2.5 hours drive out of Melbourne, a very iconic scenic area. We have millions of tourists visit every year. Over the last 10, 15 years, we've had 3 different properties that we have had as holiday rentals. We've now contracted to 1. In that time, Rex, with his corporate marketing experience, ratcheted up many different marketing experiments, and we had a very good success, especially with Seazen, and hopefully tease out some of those issues. But in terms of our current challenge, of course, coronavirus, like most other countries around the world, Australia was affected, has been affected, and we closed our international borders late February, early January. Late February, early March, thank you. And since then, the world has been a different place. Yeah. Many of our guests are interstate from around Australia, but we also do have international guests. And in fact, our entire region along the Great Ocean Road has over 6 million international guests every year. So the world changed very rapidly. We closed our property very early March, as did all the other properties around us. The Australian government organised a very quick lockdown. People were asked to stay at home, work from home. Non-essential services were stopped. Cafes, restaurants were closed. Very dramatic changes, as in quite a few other countries. And of course, holiday rentals were immediately affected. No travel. In fact, Australia still currently has in place state borders. So even though we are now a little bit more or less restricted, we still cannot travel over our state borders.
And this is not discretionary for us. The government has said, you will shut. There are no excuses. So we're just complying and waiting.
Makes sense. So in this circumstance, I guess short-term rentals had to adapt. So I guess like in some parts of the world, short-term rental owners have told themselves, okay, now I can't have short-term guests, so I have to find other kinds of guests. So Can you share more about this trend as well in Australia?
Yes, that's exactly what's happened. Many of the short-term rentals have gone away from short-term, have taken themselves off Airbnb, HomeAways, all those OTA portals, and are now competing in the long-term rental market. Of course, if you're out in the countryside or down by the beach, that's less attractive. The major long-term rental market, of course, is in the bigger cities, the capital cities. So there's no doubt that the holiday rental owners will be suffering financially for probably quite some time.
And if I'm not mistaken, so as you said, right, if you are not in a big city, switch to a longer stays or even long coming tenants is not something that's easy to do, right? But I guess you are a great example of people with a business sense who have built over the years a sort of secret weapon. And I think this secret weapon that you have to see being able to be getting interest or even bookings is your newsletter. So maybe can you share a bit about why? I mean, newsletter sounds like, oh wow, newsletter. I mean, why aren't you guys on Instagram? So what's about this newsletter? What are you doing with this, and what are you seeing in terms of results?
Yes, thanks, Thibault. It's the one thing that really does differentiate us, and is why we've been running at 80% occupancy for the last 10 years, really. A lot of owners are very shy about a newsletter. They feel that it might be intrusive or marketing junk. And I've run many experiments over the years, and I have a very frequent newsletter. When I say frequent, once per month, and my guests absolutely love it. And I have a secret formula. The formula is to do two things. One is to inform about what's happening locally, and the other is to entertain with things that meet my special criteria, which is, would I find that interesting to read myself? And I never say, hello, please come and stay with us. I always say, here's interesting things that are happening. And by the way, here's a special, if you're interested, I would love to see you. So it's very low pressure. And I thought with the coronavirus, I would run a very special experiment, which I've run today. I'm very happy to share the results of that with you. So today I sent out, I scheduled a newsletter which I prepared yesterday and went out first thing this morning. I timed it for when the sun was shining, which we get a better readership for. I've learned that over the years. And basically I had half a dozen little snippet stories, one about showing the local people pulling out weeds and burning weeds. And so there's a photo of Sibylle doing that. Picture of people fishing off the rocks and offering us free fish, and talking about the local cafe with the best coffee. Nice. And also I said how there were 0 cases of coronavirus in our shire, etc. And then I sat back and I thought, well, what I should do is invite people to participate actively if they're interested. So I said, would you join our update hot list so we can send you a bulletin if the government says that we're going to be able to open, and then you can start making bookings. And by the way, the good news is that we're going to give you a special deal. It'll be, we are shutting off for OTAs. It will only be open for previous guests, and there will be no deposit, and there will be no payment until after you've come. We trust you guys, and there will be full refund, so there's no risk on your part. And just let us know if you'd like to be on the hot list. And then I sat back and waited, Thibault, and thought, what's going to happen? And our response usually is maybe one booking. Excuse me. Pardon this voice.
Sure, no worries, no worries. I will lower my hand and you could start with an eye lower.
So we had, so when I was very anxious to see what would happen, normally we get one booking and maybe a comment about our newsletter. And today I did not get one or two. I got 14 within the first hour and then trickled in all day. Currently I'm up to 22.
Fantastic.
It's really engaged our people. And if you excuse my finger for a minute, I'm going to quote from what they've had today. Brianna says, I really appreciate your newsletters and the pictures. Just haven't been able free to book a getaway. Getting let out of lockdown will inspire me to make time. And Nancy says, yes, please send me an update and put me on the priority list when you're able to take bookings again. I'm very much looking forward to getting out again. And Bev says, I have been daydreaming about heading down to stay. And someone else says, this is our happy place and we miss not coming down. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the kind of response where people really switched on.
That's, again, thanks for sharing it so much with us, because it's fantastic. But you can only do this because you took the pain over the years to collect email addresses, email to these people, and build a relationship with them, which you shared how you did it. But also what I was really interested in what you said is that you also said, okay, I'm going to focus only on these people, my past guests, and offer them some special conditions, saying like, this only, the property will only be reserved for you guys. You were with us in the past, and I think you said also that basically they don't have to put money down yet, right? They can come and just pay when they arrive. Because I think it's also another thing is that we all hope to be able to take bookings, but I guess our guests may think, what if a second wave happens? So I think this is probably to address that, right? So what was your thinking when you thought I'm going to do this in that conditions? What were you thinking about to address maybe fears and risks?
Well, perhaps Sibylle might explain how we had in February when people wanted to come, we had a rush of bookings and a rush of cancellations.
Yes, and Thibault, it's as good for us as it is for other people because it's about certainty. So rather than us taking deposits and then having to potentially reimburse, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. We decided, no, we're not going to do that. We will just get people to pay when they actually arrive on the doorstep. And, one thing about all of the coronavirus, the word that comes up all the time, the concerns, it's uncertainty, uncertainty. That is the word that everybody uses for everything. And so if you can say to your guests, one thing is certain for you, you will not pay if you cannot come. That is already a really, really good thing for them to relax about. And I should say that probably in your country too, the media has been full of the problems in the tourism industry, mainly the larger operators, the airlines, not being able to give refunds. And every day you have the television news and there's a story of somebody who booked a $20,000 trip and has already paid for it and has not been able to get a refund. So that is a big concern.
Yeah, it's so interesting as well in terms of risk. I think, Sibylle, it's very well presented as well, is that because this could be also a risk on your side, but in a way, again, this offer, you're only making it to people who've booked with you before. So, and I saw a lot of the quotes from Rex, by Rex, it's the quotes from your past guests. You can feel they've been there in their place, the happy place, they know the place. So it's a risk you're taking with the no payments. On the other hand, these people have proven in the past they were actual bookers and the actual people who pay. So it's a limited risk as well in terms of like maybe having like a no-show. So I think it's very, very smart move, very interesting. But again, it's only possible if you have this large pool of past guests that you can contact again, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So there's a couple of points about that too. We are quite hard-nosed about this. We occasionally have a bad guest, and we take great satisfaction on putting them on our blacklist, and they do not get onto our newsletter. They never hear from us again. So this is a very hard note. Everyone who's stayed with us in the past are lovely people who are on our list, and we have no hesitation. If someone said to me, "Oh, look, I couldn't pay for another week," I'd say, "No problem. No problem at all. Pay when you're ready." We've never had a default payment ever, and I don't think we will.
That's really fantastic. And again, that's the power of relationships, and the two of you have really been able to create this. Your past guests, even through Holiday Rental Mastery, Rex, you've been sharing your knowledge over the years, and I've been a subscriber to your newsletter for last 6 years, I think, 2014. So it's also something we will link to it in the show notes below the video. But also in terms of relationships or reaching out, I think in the last couple of days, you've also reached out to other people in your area to get together and get some things done to help out other property owners and managers. Could you share a bit about this, please?
Yes, thanks, Steve. In the past, we've had a couple of disasters on the Great Ocean Road. We've had a fire, and we've had floods, and we've had road closures from landslips. And so over the last 10 years I've been active in the industry, I've promoted meetings with our regional leaders. I'm the chair of the local tourism group. We are called Otway Coast Hamlets Tourism. And when we had the crisis in the past, I've always been active lobbying the government agencies. And in the past, I've worked with politicians who are trying to do good deals, and not through my own efforts, but we've had 2 deals of $50 million from government injected into our area directly, and another 55, which is a direct result of lobbying that I did after the roads were closed. And we have a leadership forum which we convene from time to time, whereby the leaders of all the local tourism groups, plus the shires, have come together. In one case, we sent a letter to the Prime Minister. Another, we sent a letter to the Premier, and we had very active support from the government's ministers, one of whom I know very well. And she just went to Cabinet and said, "Look, can we have a meeting with the leaders and the department heads," in which we did cooperatively without embarrassing them in the press. And we are expecting that we will do the same kind of positive influencing again, saying this is good for the economy, it's very low risk, and we think it'll be good for you to be seen taking a leadership role to adapt. We will do our part to reinforce government policy and good cleaning standards, and we hope that there will be a win-win result for everybody.
Yes, because what's happening at the moment, Sibylle, is restrictions are being loosened up slowly for various things, but I think the holiday rental industry isn't front of mind for the politicians. So unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And yet in all of our discussions with key people, as Rex says, other politicians and people running various tourism groups, the data, our medical data suggests that, especially if we opened up just within the state and had local people coming and staying, the medical data suggests that there would be no risk at the moment. So we're a little bit disappointed that our local Premier hasn't opened the gates for that, but so that this lobbying that Rex is talking about is hoping to encourage that over the next week or so.
Thanks a lot, Sibylle and Rex, for sharing all this. And I think we opened the discussion with, let's say, regulations, or let's say like lockdown rules, and we are also finishing up this on that level, right? It's like there's of course a lot of things governments, are doing or not doing, and we have to adapt. but still in the heart of our conversation, we still had like, okay, this is happening and some things I cannot control, but you really also shared things you can control as a property owner, property manager, like getting back to your past guests, maybe being super creative to look at what can I do? There's risk on both sides. What can I come up with? And also, as we saw, right, it's not something you can do from one day to another, but on the other hand, it's, you can start today. Why not start today? It's not too late to gather maybe email addresses of some people. You maybe in some countries may be very difficult to actually go back to people, emailing them if you have not asked them for their permission. So again, rules are different from one country to another, but we can be creative, and we are individual owners and property managers. So sometimes we have to find ways to get through this. So once again, I would like to thank you so much for your time and insights today. If people want to reach out, get to know more about the property or about holiday rental mastery, what are the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I'd like to do two things. One is in your show notes or whatever, just leave them with holidayrentalmastery.com. So it's HOLIDAYMASTERY.com. People can sign up to my list if they wish. But I'd also like to make a special offer today to send the link to my wildly successful newsletter. Exceeded my expectations. So people can have a read for themselves. And some of my readers in the past have also signed up to the newsletter. So if people do want to sign up, they can look at future ones and be a fly on the wall.
Because it's not about necessarily reading that newsletter, but it may give them ideas about how they could do their own newsletter and the sort of things that they could include. Yeah. So thank you very much for today, Thibault.
And Thibault, thank you very much for spreading the word and doing what you're doing. It's very important for the global community to see leaders such as yourself who are helping bridge the gap in a very difficult situation. And thank you from our hearts. You're doing great.
I'm very touched. Getting emotional as well. So thank you so much for your time again today. Links in the show notes, and well, I hope to see you soon.